So hi everyone, I'm just waiting for a few people to join me. We've got a few people on already. That's great, excellent. Just say hi and tell me why you're here, what drew you to this session today, just so I know who's watching. Just say hi. Waiting for a few more people to join perhaps. So what's interesting about interview techniques is that we all have a strategy. And obviously some strategies are better than others, but we all have one. And I know that some people think, oh no, I don't have a strategy at all. I don't do anything, but we have one. Because whatever you're thinking is going to affect your mindset and is therefore going to affect your performance when you're having an interview. So just take a moment just to think about what your strategy is. What do you do before you go into an interview? And is that positive or negative? And you can post in the comments if you like, but there's no obligation. I want to take you through a similar process to the kind of process I would use with a client who came to me one-to-one. Obviously challenging because I'm not always going to get your responses, which means I can't delve deeper. But what I can do is get you to start thinking about what you're doing now and what you could be doing better. Okay, so you might even want to grab a piece of paper and a pen for this session and start writing some notes, maybe brainstorming things that you could do differently. Okay, so what do you do now? Do you do any preparation? Actually, I would say that you definitely do. There's no way you do nothing. There's absolutely no way that anyone does nothing. Even if they think they don't do anything, everyone has thoughts, and our thoughts create our reality. So if you're worrying, for instance, then that's going to have an impact on what happens when you go into your interview. If you're very relaxed, again, it's going to have an impact on what happens when you go into that session with your interviewer. Okay, so what's really interesting about the kind of clients that come to me is that they all come to me for different reasons. So I have clients that come to me just to work on their voice. So this happens to me actually quite often. And even last week, I had a client that came to me to work on their voice in preparation for an interview about 1 hour later, 2 hours later, something like that. And so that's very interesting because obviously for this person, confidence was just not an issue. And this person said to me, okay, well, we'll just see what happens. And it's as much about me interviewing them as them interviewing me. And if you're going to model someone, I think that's the kind of person you want to be modeling someone who has already got what you want, so has already got that level of confidence that you're looking for. And another client that I've had as well this year came to me because she wanted to get a promotion within her company. Is that she had done loads of preparation. So I was to kind of correct her speech, her pronunciation, her grammar, that kind of thing. And she had done just an immense amount of preparation involving a PowerPoint presentation, graphs, charts, all kind of things. And she was confident. Again, confidence seems to be key here. And then I'll fast forward to another one I had recently. And she came to me because she hadn't got position, the place that she wanted on a course. And it was all to do with the interview. And I asked her, well, what did you do to prepare? Nothing. Okay. And obviously I know that everyone does something. So I had to delve deeper. And I asked her, so how were you feeling? What were you thinking? And she said, well, I just didn't want to be there. I didn't want to go. I didn't want to do it. I wanted to get out of it. Whatever I could do to not go there. Okay. And when we got to the root cause of it, it was all about being disappointed or not meeting these people's expectations. So what I would say is that is not a good strategy. But first of all, you have to be aware of what your strategy is. So if you think you don't have one, it's not true. Hi Tulpong, watching from Thailand. Hi, nice to see you here. Thanks so much for coming. I'll say hi back. So you've got your piece of paper, your pen. So just noting down, if you can, about your current strategy, because this is going to help you later on. And thinking as well what you potentially could do differently or better. Okay. And what does a person who is confident do? What have they got that you haven't got? And this is what you want to be looking for. So we've heard lots of interesting quotes about if you do the same thing over and over again, you can't possibly expect to get different results. And I think that if you start to make some changes, you're going to see some improvements, but you have to start by making changes in your strategy, in your habits, in the kind of things you do before you go into an interview. Hi again, thanks for saying hi to me. I feel much more like I'm being watched. It's really good. Okay, so let me carry on. What else have I got in my notes? The most important part of your preparation is to convince yourself that you are the perfect person for this job. Now, you can only do this if you believe in it. So if you see a job description and it's for an IT expert and you're a ballet dancer, then obviously you're not going to go for that job. Okay, so it has to be realistic. So you want to be looking at a job description and thinking, yeah, that matches my qualifications and my experience. And then you need to sit down and convince yourself that you are the best person for the job. Because if you can't convince yourself, you're never going to be able to convince someone else that you can do what they want you to do in this role. Okay, so how are you going to do this? So I'll tell you my strategy, and it's been quite a long time since I've gone for an interview, but my strategy I feel was a good one. I was always very confident, and it was just very simple. I would print off my CV, my curriculum vitae, and I would sit down and I would literally go through all the positions I'd had, all the experience, all the qualifications, and I would relive it and think about, wow, that's great. And the more I did this, the more confident I became. Typical kind of questions that I was going to be asked. What qualifications have I got that are really relevant to the position? So I'm really convincing myself that I'm right for the job in preparation to do the same for my interviewer at my interview. And also another good thing to do is to go through the typical questions that you're going to be asked. So what are your strengths? You don't want to be in the interview. So you have to have that on the top of your head so you can just speak as soon as you're asked. What are your strengths? And then the normal following question to this is, and what's your weakness? Because everyone has a weakness. And ideally you want it to be a weakness that can be turned on its head. Hi, watching from Halifax in England. Hi, I can't quite read your name. That's great. Hi. So what are your strengths and what are your weaknesses? So be prepared for the kind of questions you're going to be asked. And also, what entices you to this role? What do you like about it? So even if you don't look into the company in more depth, I'd recommend you do. But if, for instance, you're applying for lots of jobs and you haven't had a chance to look in depth at the company, I would at least have a copy of the job description and look at it and be able to tick off, okay, I've done this, I've done this, I've done this. Again, partly for your confidence, but also so that when you're asked in an interview, you're prepared, particularly if there's something that you haven't done, but you can defend yourself or say you're working on that, for instance. So number one issue here is mindset and confidence. And let's presuppose you go for an interview and you don't get it. Just let me know, anyone here, have they been to interviews and not got the job? So I've done that before. And just take a moment to ask yourself, was it the right job for you? Were you qualified? Or were you just kind of looking for any job? So I've definitely been there. I went for a job in an investment bank and I'm terrible at maths and I obviously didn't get that. And so you have to come out of that situation when you get some kind of negative feedback and ask yourself, was it right for me? Because the interesting thing about negative feedback or failure, as some people call it, is actually there's no such thing as failure, only feedback. And either it wasn't the right role for you, or that feedback will help you to better prepare yourself for the next time. So take a moment to consider that if you've been in a situation where you haven't got a job that you would have liked, and what can you learn from that? What do you need to do better next time? Yeah, okay, so me, I had a job I didn't get, okay. So what can you do better next time? How can you better prepare yourself mentally? Is it about the position you went for? Is it really about you, or is it just compatibility? And as I said earlier, the best case scenario is that you go into an interview and you gain something from it. So it's as much about you interviewing the interviewer as it is about them interviewing you. And with this in mind, I would say in terms of practical preparation, something very, very important that you can do is quite simply to prepare some intelligent questions to ask your interviewer, just to make that a little bit more impact. And I know from personal experience that when someone asks me intelligent questions, I think they're really interested. So how can you make a bit more impact? Maybe there's something physical you can take with you to the interview that's going to prove that you've got what it takes. So a portfolio, if you're an architect, a photographer, an artist, is quite a natural thing. What could you take? What physical thing? Maybe if you graduated, it could be a copy of your dissertation, or if you've worked in marketing or advertising or public relations, it could be a file full of the kind of press releases or reports you've written. What can you take that will prove that you have done that kind of thing before and you're ready and willing to continue doing it? So it's all about preparing yourself to be more confident, but also to stand out as well. So you can go that extra mile and boost your confidence, convince yourself, but also then when you're ready to, you can take those steps to convince other people. So by preparing something physical to take with you to the interview. Does anyone else have any ideas? What do other people do? What have you done that's worked? Have you ever done anything that's worked really well? Does anyone have any questions? Because now's the time. We're live. Does anyone feel that they still need some more help after listening to my process? Is there anything you'd like me to share with you? So what I could do is I can write down in the information box below a list of the kind of questions that you could ask yourself. Would that be useful? Just say yes if it is. So anything else I can do for you? And even if so you said, can you please discuss tongue placement? So I think that might be a question for another time. I can't quite pronounce your name, but I think it's something like Eziozabado. Sorry, I'm so sorry. I think that's a question for another time because I don't know how relevant it is to the question, the topic of interviews. So yes, that would be great. So you'd like some notes. Okay, yeah, you tried. I tried to pronounce your name exactly. I did my best. So what I would suggest is that if you need help with positioning of the tongue, you watch all my other videos which work on things like vowels and consonants, because the tongue placement, it varies from sound to sound. Call your ears. Okay, I'll call you ears then. Great. Excellent. Well, thank you so much for coming along. So someone has asked me to post some typical questions in the comments box, in the information box below. So I'll do that. And I'll just paste some of my notes as well that I prepared for this session that might help you. I'd just like to leave you with two very important points. And the first one is there's no such thing as failure, only feedback. So if you don't get a job that you go for, what can you learn from that? How can you do better next time? And also, very important one, if you fail to plan, you plan to fail. So you always need to do some kind of preparation before any interview you go into. And I would suggest that start with your mindset. You're going to have to work on your confidence. If you have some kind of anxiety, it's there for a reason. Okay, so you need to make sure you support yourself by asking yourself the right questions and really delve in deeper into what it is that's making you feel anxious. Maybe it's just that you haven't prepared. So that would make me feel quite anxious. If I suggested a topic for a live on YouTube and I didn't prepare, maybe I'd feel a bit anxious just before, because I think, what am I going to talk about? And it's the same for an interview. Even though you're talking about yourself, you need every single answer to be on the tip of your tongue, ready And also, even if you don't have an answer ready, you're probably going to have some kind of story or example in your mind if you've just been looking at your CV, if you've just been taking yourself back to some of the best moments in your career. You're going to be really ready to share those, and you're going to sound enthusiastic. And I think that's what's key. Taking yourself out of your head, away from your worry, your anxiety, your concerns, and focusing on something more positive, like what have I done that I'm really proud of? What are my greatest achievements? Well, thank you so much for watching, everyone. And I'm going to make this more of a regular thing, these YouTube Lives. So if you have any topic ideas, please do send me a message or just comment in the box below. Thank you so much for coming today. See you soon.